So let's have a seat and we'll get centered in. I think you're going to like today's practice. It's a pretty gentle one. On Monday, I made you move quite a lot. Today, we're going to focus on lengthening the low back or self-tractioning the spine. So most of this will be pretty yummy, hopefully. I hope you like it. Anyway, with that in mind, let's find a nice straight and aligned spine. Let your shoulders relax. Balance your head on top of your spine. Take a deep breath in. Nice soft sigh through the mouth. Just take the opportunity to really feel into your body. Notice everything you're feeling, and particularly notice everything from the hips up. So our hips and our spine are very intimately connected, and your spine is really everything from the hips all the way up to the base of your skull. Everything is sort of attached to that. So really paying attention to how your spine feels and all the muscles around your spine. Notice everything else as well. And then just begin your nice, deep, slow Ujjayi breathing. Start to check in with your mind state, your emotional state, energetic state. And then based on physical, mental, emotional, and energetic observances, decide what would most benefit you from today's practice. And then bring your palms together in front of your heart. We're going to take another deep breath in. Sigh through the mouth. Good. Just stay in your cross-legged position for a moment. If your legs are extended, by the way, or one is extended and one is crossed, that's fine. We're just going to do 3 torso circles in each direction. More than anything, this is sort of exploratory. So, you'll start to loosen up a little bit through the hips and the low back, but this will also let you know if there's one side tighter than the other or what's going on. So as you exhale, a nice slow exhale, you'll lean forward. And then as you inhale, you'll lean back. And just take your time and go 3 full circles in each direction. As you finish out all 3, just kind of pause, come back to that nice straight spine, relax your shoulders, just sort of make note of how you felt and what you felt. And then when you're ready, you can just transition onto your hands and knees. We're going to do a couple of cat-cow stretches. Again, this is as much of an exploratory move as it is a limbering move. This will start to loosen things up in your back. You inhale, you arch, you exhale, and you round. But it's also exploratory. It'll let you know if extension, which is arching the back, feels good, or if flexion, which is rounding the back, feels better. You just kind of notice what's going on. And then pause in the center. We're going to hit the sides now. So lateral spinal movement. Both feet move to the right and your head looks over your right shoulder like you're trying to see your left heel. You'll kind of feel your left rib cage poke out. A couple of deep breaths here. And then take both feet over to the left. We'll look over your left shoulder like you're trying to see your right heel. Poke that right rib cage out and breathe. And come back to the center. I'd like you to turn your toes under And press back into downward facing dog. Just take a couple of nice, deep, slow breaths here. And then make sure that your palms are as flat as you can get them, that the shoulders are moving away from each other, that those hips are pressing up and back, and that the heels are pressing down. Take a couple of extra breaths here. Really lengthen your spine. And then slowly walk your feet forward. Keep your knees bent. Relax your neck. Totally relax your neck. And just kind of dangle over your thighs. Now, in order for this to be truly spine lengthening, you should be hinging more from your hips than from your low back. All of us, of course, are going to have a little bit of a curve, rounding in the low back, but as much as possible, you want the hinge to come from the hips so that your head is just hanging and it's drawing length into the spine. Couple more breaths here. On your next inhale, come all the way up. Reach the arms up and overhead. And as you exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. So having an aligned spine is part of spinal health, of course. So let's just kind of feel our way into it for a moment before we do some more gentle movement. Really ground your feet into the mat and notice where it feels like the weight is distributed. So if you feel like you kind of have a little more weight on the balls of the feet, then you're going to want to bring yourself back a little bit. If you feel like it's more in the arch of the foot, not too bad, but you should feel slightly more weight at the heels. And then you want to make sure that your chest is lifted, but the bottom points of the rib cage kind of dip in. So you feel your core really engaged. Then your shoulders simply relax and your head draws back so that it's balanced on top of your spine. Just take a moment and really feel that. Kind of make a mental note of it. This is how we should be standing anytime we're standing. And then bring your palms together in front of your heart. Let's inhale, reach the arms up and stretch up. Exhale, fold all the way forward. Fingertips down. Inhale and look up halfway. And then exhale back down. We're going to step back today with the right leg. And just hold your lunge for a moment. So you should have a left foot forward lunge here. And once you kind of get your legs in the right place and you start feeling the hips soften, see if you can come up onto your fingertips, and you're welcome to use blocks, and kind of pull your heart forward. So a lot of today's practice, I'm going to cue you to have your chest and your face forward rather than down. One more breath here. And then drop your right knee down. We're going to go ahead and just take the left hand to the inside of that left knee, roll on the outside edge of your left foot, and gently press your leg open. So we're just kind of waking up that left hip a little bit. As I said earlier, the hips and the low back are very intimately connected. Let's go ahead and extend the left leg, saying hello to the left hamstring, flexing the ankle and toes. And then bend your left knee. Let's take the arms up and overhead, pelvis tilts, rib cage lifts, and we're just letting the hips move forward, trying to find sensation in the front of that right hip, right thigh. Go ahead and bring your hands down. Take your left knee back to meet your right knee. Wag your tail a moment. And then go ahead and take a child's pose. So you're going to take your forehead down. Let your back round as much as you comfortably can. Take a couple of breaths. And then from here, we're just going to scoot forward into Sphinx. And you hear me talk about it all the time. But today, for sure, be really mindful that your buns, your glutes are totally soft. So if you let your big toes touch each other and then move the heels away from each other, it's kind of like you're pigeon-toed while you're lying on your stomach. I want you to really pull with your forearms today. So use your strength. Imagine that you're trying to pull yourself along the floor. Pull with your forearms, and hopefully you actually feel some lengthening in the low back. So this is one really, really effective way to self-traction your own spine. Take one more breath here, and then just to add a little bit of levity and also release any tension, we're going to do a lion breath on each side. So dead center here, we breathe in. And then as you breathe out, turn your head to the right and do lion breath. Inhale to the center. As you exhale, turn your head to the left and do lion breath. Inhale back to the center, and then exhale your way into your second downward facing dog. So we just said Sphinx is one of the best ways to self-traction your spine. Downward facing dog is another. So it's easy to just kind of hang out in down dog and think of it as a resting pose, but it's truly a great spine lengthener. So spread those palms flat, broaden your shoulders, reach your hips back and press your heels down. And then from here, I want you to truly imagine someone is pressing your hips up and back. Go ahead and just let your body go with that as though someone's pressing on your sacrum. You're going to feel your stretch deepen. Take one more breath. Then you can step your right foot forward. Just come into your lunge on the right side. Once the legs are set, the thighs are aligned, lift your chest and pull your face and chest forward. So lengthening the spine in our lunge. Got to drop your left knee down. We'll just take the right hand to the inside of the right knee, roll onto the outside edge of the right foot, and gently press against your right knee. So just trying to wake up that right hip. And then extend your right leg, flex the ankle and toes, and yet again, face and heart pull forward for your hamstring stretch. This helps you extend your spine. Then we're going to bend the right knee and bring the arms up and overhead. Pelvis tilts back as the chest lifts. And you just allow your hips to move forward until you feel this on the front of your left hip, left thigh. From here, we're going to step forward to a standing forward bend. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And as we exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Turn sideways on your mat. And I'm going to have you just take a moderately wide stance with your toes rotated out. So we're going to do 2 self-tractions here. Your knees are going to go wherever your toes are going. That's why your toes are rotated out. We want to keep the knees happy. So you're going to bend your knees. Bring your hands to the top of your thighs with your elbows completely straight. Now, for most of us, it's comfortable to kind of lean forward here for this particular move. I want you to try and be a little more vertical. So let your hips come forward and your chest move back. Now, take a deep breath in through your nose. As you exhale, I want you to push into your hands. Lift your chest even higher. See if you can get your hands higher up on the thighs with the arms totally locked out. Again, breathe in. Exhale, push into your thighs, lift your chest. See if you can go one more, and if you can't, that's all right. Arms are totally straight. Inhale. Exhale, push into the thighs, lift the chest, and then just straighten your legs. Relax your arms, roll your shoulders back. If you need to do some wrist circles, do that because we're not quite done with this whole thing. So in that one, we were trying to keep our spine vertical. In the next one, it'll be okay to lean forward a little bit. So you're gonna bend your knees. Same thing, hands are on the thighs, elbows are locked out. But this time, instead of being vertical, it's okay to lean forward. All right, from here, you're gonna press against the inside of your left thigh. You're gonna bend your right elbow and twist and look over your right shoulder. Now, what you should feel is left side of the spine is stretching, left hip is getting a little bit of traction as well. And then we're just gonna switch sides. So you're gonna completely straighten your right arm, press against the inside of the right thigh, bend your left elbow, twist and look over the left shoulder. And then come on up, release your arms, roll your shoulders back. Go ahead and take your feet a tiny bit wider and let the feet be parallel. So now your toes are pointing directly forward. If you can keep your legs straight, great. But if you need to bend your knees a little bit, that's okay. So earlier in Ragdoll, we talked about hinging from the hips. I want you to do that here. I want you to hinge at your hips, fold forward just as much as you can. You're trying to be vertical and let your head hang and draw some length into your spine. Take a couple breaths like this. And then for those of you that would like a little bit of extra neck traction, you can interlace your fingers behind your neck. It's got to be behind your neck, not behind your head, because you want your pinky fingers to kind of hook underneath the base of your skull. Elbows wrap forward, and maybe you can get them to touch under your chin, and then you simply relax your arms. The weight of your arms gives you a little bit of extra tractioning on the neck. Take one more breath. And then release your hands down. Come on up to standing with the feet wide. You can bend your knees and walk up the thighs if you need to. We're going to start with our left side first. So I want you to rotate your left foot out and your right foot in. You're going to keep both legs straight. We're going to do a spine lengthening version of a triangle. I want your arms out to the side. Kick your hips to the right. Now, here's the deal. You're going to imagine that everything you've ever dreamed of is just beyond your reach of your left hand. Start reaching, reaching, reaching with your left arm. Reach. Keep reaching. And just take your right hand to the ceiling. Keep reaching. Now, in this position, you should feel a lot of length on both sides of your spine. Take one more breath. Then let that left hand find your left shin. You can slide down a little farther if you like, but keep that length on the left side of the spine. Come back up now. Bend your left knee and you'll be in warrior two. Take your right hand to your right thigh, left arm up and over. Stretch out that left side of the spine one more time. And then keep your right hand on your right thigh. Come back up, bring your left hand to the inside of your left thigh. Press your left arm straight. Maybe you can keep sliding your right hand down towards your right ankle. Then come back up. Rotate your left foot in. Rotate your right foot out. Keep both legs straight. Arms are out to the side. Kick your hips to the left. Now we're going to reach through the right fingertips. You're reaching, you're reaching, you're reaching. You feel the whole right side of your spine lengthen. Lengthen. Keep that length. Take your left hand to the ceiling. Keep breathing. Keep reaching through the right hand. One more breath. Lots of length in the spine. Right hand to the right shin. You can slide a little farther down if you like, but make sure you don't curve your spine. You want to keep that length on the right side of the spine. And then come all the way back up. Bend your right knee. Warrior two. Left hand to left thigh. Right arm up and over. Reverse warrior. Still stretching right side of the spine. And then you can keep your left hand on your left leg. Just bring your right hand to the inside of that right thigh and press your right arm straight. Maybe continuing to slide your left hand down your left leg towards your ankle. Come all the way back up. You can straighten your right leg. Bring the feet together. Come back up to the front of the mat. Find that nice aligned spine, all those cues that we used earlier. Weight closer to the heels, shoulders over the hips, head balanced. And then inhale, reach the arms up. And as you exhale, fold forward. Inhale and look up. And then exhale back down. I want you to step straight back to a really nice spine lengthening down dog. Press those palms into the earth, almost like you're trying to plug your hands in so that you can shoot those hips way up and back as if someone's pressing on them. Heels towards the earth. Take a couple of breaths. And then go ahead and drop down to your knees. Give yourself a little tail wag and a cat-cow. Just kind of check in. How's it going with the spine? And then those of you that would like to take a vinyasa, you may take one. Those of you that would like to take a child's pose, you may take one. If you're in child's pose, you're going to want to scoot forward into either Sphinx or Cobra. And regardless of which one you're doing, pull your heart forward. And then downward facing dog again. From this down dog, we're going to walk our feet forward. Big inhale, arms up and overhead. And exhale, palms together. So our standing balance today is going to be that it's kind of like a standing pigeon or a standing figure four. You guys have done this with me before, and I just would love to remind you that in order to have good balance here, the arms must be extended overhead so that like when you hinge at your hips, your arms going forward counterbalances your hips going back. So just trust me on that. If you need to hang on to something, that's fine. But let the other arm be over your head, not forward, but over your head. We're going to stand on the left foot first. And I'm going to have you cross your right ankle over your left thigh, just above the knee. Flex that ankle. Bring the arms up and overhead. And then your stretch comes in by pushing the hips back, bending your left knee as you're leaning out, leaning forward over your right shin. Try and keep your chest and your face kind of pointing forward. You should feel this in your right glute. And then come back up, release your right foot down. And then we'll stand on the right foot. So we're going to take left foot across right thigh, just above the knee, flex the ankle. Arms are up and overhead. And as we start to push our hips back, our chest goes forward and we bend the right knee a little bit. Keep that left ankle flexed. Remember to keep your chest and your face pointing forward as much as possible. You should feel it in your left glute. One more breath. And then come all the way back up. Bring your feet together. Bring your palms together. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold all the way forward. Inhale, look up halfway. Exhale, back down. Step straight back. Downward facing dog. Really press your hips up and back. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Remember, if you just imagine someone pushing on your hips and you really let yourself go there, your hips will, in fact, press farther up and back. It's like doing partner yoga, but you are your partner. You actually don't need anyone else to self-traction your spine in downward facing dog. From your down dog, find your way all the way onto your stomach. We're going to do a nice spine lengthening Sphinx one more time. Be very particular about big toes touching, heels separating. Bring your arms farther in front of you than you normally do. So instead of having your elbows under your shoulders, have your elbows out in front of you where you can see them. So you're going to feel your rib cage actually on your mat. You don't have the rib cage up and off the mat. The rib cage is on the mat. Shoulders down the back. Gaze forward. Breathe in deeply. Now, as you breathe out, really pull, like pull for all your worth with your forearms. Hopefully you felt your rib cage move forward slightly. Take one more breath, keep pulling. Excellent. Hands and knees, all fours. Little tail wag if you need it. Couple of cat-cows. And then from here, you're simply extending your legs in front of you and taking a moment in Dandasana. So I want you to really find your sit bones, feel them. You should feel them, bottom points of the pelvis. Hands are right behind your backside. Push into the floor to lift the chest. And this should feel just like when we were standing. So you don't want all of your weight on the front of your sit bones. You don't want it all on the back. Kind of centered, but slightly back. Lifting the chest. Face and chest are forward. Shoulders are down. Head is balanced on top of the spine. And really activate and energize your legs. So this is Dandasana. Again, we're experiencing really good seated spinal alignment. Now we're going to keep left leg straight. I want you to bring your right foot to the inside of your left thigh. Lift up through your chest. Try and keep your chest and your face forward as much as possible as you lean out over your left leg. So instead of hunching and rounding down, like you were going to put your face on your knee or something, you're pulling forward. Yet again, extending the spine, lengthening the spine. Take a couple more breaths here. And then come on up. We're going to pick the right foot up and bring it on top of the left thigh, just above the knee. Flex your right ankle, very important. And again, lean out over your left leg, trying to keep chest and face pointing forward. Now, once the leg is up on top of the left thigh, you'll know if you're tight in your right hip or not. So when you're doing this stretch, if you're already starting to feel your right hip, that means you have a little tightness or tension there. If you're doing this and the only place you feel it is your left hamstring, congratulations, you're not holding tightness or tension in the right hip. Now, whether you are or not, you have the option of tractioning a little bit here. In order to do that, you would take your right hand to the center of your right thigh. Now, what your body wants to do is move to the right because that will lessen the sensation. I'm going to ask you to move to the left and begin to press against the inside of the right thigh. It should feel a lot like the Warrior 2 traction that we did and that Standing Goddess traction prior to that. You should feel right side of the spine and right hip getting a little extra stretch. Take one more breath. And come on up. From that, we're just going to slide the right foot all the way over until it's flat. You're going to take your right hand directly behind your backside, like basically almost touching your backside, not way out because I don't want you to lean. You want to be as vertical as possible. Push into the floor for that very straight spine, almost like we do in Dandasana. And you can either just hug your right knee or you're welcome to bring the elbow outside of it, but I want your spine super straight and vertical as you begin to twist and rotate to your right. And then slowly rotate back around. Extend your right leg out. And we're going to do all this on the other side. Bring your left foot to the inside of your right thigh. Chest is lifted, face and chest are forward. So instead of hunching and rounding, you're lifting and lengthening. Just take a few breaths, leaning out over that right leg. And then we're going to come up from here, pick the left foot up, flex that ankle, that's important, bring it on top of your right thigh. One more time, you're going to lean out, keeping the chest lifted. So we're keeping our spine extended. And again, this lets you know, and obviously one side is usually less flexible than the other. So this will kind of let you know if your left hip is tighter or looser than your right. If you're feeling it in your left hip, you have tension there. If you're only feeling it in your right hamstring, you probably don't. So again, that option to extend even more. If you like, put your left hand on the center of your left thigh. Your torso moves more to the right, not to the left. And then you try and press against the inside of that left thigh. So as you're pressing here, what you should feel is left side of the spine lengthens. Left hip is getting some opening. And then come on up from that and let your left foot slide all the way across till the foot is flat. So just like we did on the other side, I want your spine to be truly vertical for your twist. So don't lean way back on that left hand. Have it literally up against your back or your buttocks. Lift your chest for a very straight spine and begin to twist to the left. You can either hug your left knee or you can bring the right arm outside of it, but try and keep spine vertical and long. So it's almost like someone's pulling you through the crown of the head, lengthening your spine. And rotate back around. Extend your left leg out. Give your legs a good wiggle. You're going to go ahead and spread those legs nice and wide. And again, same thing. So by the way, it's not a mistake, in my opinion, that a somewhat arched back is considered an extended spine. Rounded is flexed. That shortens the spine. Slightly arching the back, which goes along with our natural curves, extends the spine. Keep that in mind as you move into Upavishta Konasana here. Chest is lifted. Again, heart and face are forward. You're trying to lengthen and extend your spine. Doesn't matter if your hands are right behind you, if your hands are in front of you, if they're on your legs or feet, it doesn't matter. Your spine is what's important. So keep your legs active, keep your feet flexed, toes should be pointing straight up, and your chest is pulling forward. And we just take a few breaths here. You can just walk your hands back up, bring your legs together, give your legs a good wiggle. And then just like that, you get to lie on your back, hug your knees and rock side to side. And please make sure your block is within reach, because this is where we're going to start using it. So hugging knees, rocking side to side. And then the first thing we're going to do is traction from the head end. So this is a neck traction, but honestly, it hits the whole spine. This is so gentle and so therapeutic. You can even do this if you have like severe osteoporosis. Like there's no danger with this one at all. So I love doing this. It's just a healthy, happy thing to do. What I'd like you to do is take your block or whatever you're using and put it at the lowest level underneath your head as though it's a pillow. Go ahead and extend your legs straight out. Feel your face. So you want it to be somewhat parallel to the floor. In other words, don't tuck your chin in your chest and also don't point it up at the ceiling. So you want your face relatively parallel to the floor. You're going to internally rotate your thighs. That means your knees are pointing towards each other. It's just like in Sphinx, actually. Your big toes are touching and your heels are separate, right? Same movement, same reason. And then your hands are reaching straight up for the ceiling. I want you to push through the back of your head and just lift your shoulder blades off the ground. So your backside and your legs are firmly pressing into the floor. The back of your head is firmly pressing into your block, and your rib cage is lifted. If I were there, I could slide my hand underneath your upper back and not touch anything. Like you'd have space between your shoulder blades and the floor. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and lower down, relax your legs, relax your arms. We're going to do that one more time. So yet again, double check, face parallel to the floor. Your legs are internally rotated, which means they've rolled inward towards each other. Your hands are reaching straight up towards your ceiling, and then you're pressing into your block to lift your rib cage, to lift the upper part of your torso. A couple more nice, slow, deep breaths here. It's very important to keep those thighs rolled inward. And slowly lower down. You're going to move your block off to the side for a moment. Bring your knees into your chest, side to side rock. Then we're going to do 2 bridge traction moves. So the first one is a very active traction. This is you self-tractioning your spine. So this is another really great way to do it. By the way, if you have wrist issues, your wrists may not love this, so hang in there. The second one's going to be better for you. But if you can, here's what I want you to do. You're going to make little mitten hands, right? All 4 fingers are together, but the thumbs stick out. If you put your little mitten hands on your hips like you're indignant, your 4 fingers are on the front part of your torso and your thumbs are hooking over the top part of your pelvis. You're basically hitting the iliac crest. What I'd like you to do is like we always do, big toes touch, heels separate. Keep your little mitten hands on the tops of your hip bones. You're going to lift your hips into bridge. It doesn't have to be high. It can be a neutral bridge. Take a big inhale, lifting your rib cage towards your chin. And as you exhale, I want you to literally push against your pelvis. Push it like you're trying to push your hips towards your knees and keep pulling the rib cage towards your chin. You're literally trying to press length into your torso between the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the hips. Take one more breath here. And as you exhale, lower down, release. You can make some little wrist circles if you need to. That's the last time I'm going to harass your wrists today. And then go ahead and hug your knees into your chest and rock side to side. Then from here, we're going to go into our second way of tractioning the spine and bridge, but this one is passive, not active. It's restorative with your hips on the block. So I think most of you guys did this with me in class. Depending upon your spine, most of you are going to want to go flat level or mid-level. It's very important to me that your block is across your pelvis, not like up and down on your spine. So when you lift your hips for bridge, I want you to slide the block underneath the flat part on the back of your pelvis. In other words, the back part of your hip bones are sitting on this block. Your low back, if you reach up under and feel, your low back is not on the block. Your hips are on the block. Very important. Whichever level you've chosen is fine. Still let the big toes touch and the heels separate. Just let your arms relax. And we're just going to focus on our breathing here. So the idea is, as much as possible, you relax. The block is holding your hips up, right? And just like with every other asana or pose, your muscles relax on the exhales. So I want you to imagine while you're breathing that you're breathing length into your spine. And as you exhale, you feel all the muscles relax, and so your spine grows longer. You may even find that you have to move your shoulder blades a little farther away from the block. You do have the capacity to lengthen here, by the way. So while you're just hanging out with your hips on a block, anatomy-wise, between the top of your hip bones, where you were just pressing a moment ago, and the bottom of your rib cage, the only bone in your body is your spine, and it's segmented. So that's the area that we have the most capacity to create space in. It's minute, but when you have any compression anywhere in your back, minute space seems huge. So a couple more breaths here, just letting your hips on the block create that gentle self-tractioning of the spine. Every exhale, you feel the muscles relax and the spine lengthens even more. Now, if you are on the flattest level of the block, you're good. You might need to reposition it slightly, but you're fine. If you're on the mid-level of the block, I'd like you to put it back down to the flat level of the block, still under the pelvis, maybe slightly closer to your tailbone, because we're going to float the legs up now and just do restorative legs up the wall without the wall. The idea is to find the perfect spot of your hips on the block that it kind of creates a fulcrum. So your pelvis tilts without effort. So your legs float up and stay without effort. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of help going on. If you passed out right now, your knees will bend and you flop over. So, of course, there's a little muscular involvement here, but it should be absolutely minimal. You shouldn't feel like your legs are working. Couple more breaths here. On your next exhale, just go ahead and bend your knees, bring your feet down to the mat. Lift your hips up and move your block out from underneath you. Hug your knees in and rock side to side. Keep your knees bent. Get your thighs vertical. So your legs are just hanging. I want you to take your block. We're only doing one of these. That's how merciful I'm feeling today. This is to lengthen your low back. It's a single deep transversus abdominis contraction, aka a crunch, that will make your low back lengthen. So I want you to take your block and put it at the mid-level, not the fattest, not the skinniest. Go for the middle width of your block and put it between your thighs, and then just make sure your thighs are vertical. So you don't want your knees pulling in towards your chest. You want them either vertical or even slightly beyond if you're working hard today. Only one, you guys, I promise. Interlace your fingers behind your neck, elbows point at the ceiling. Right this moment, you should have a small arch in your back. That's natural. The first thing I want you to do is take a deep breath in. Next, you're going to hold your breath and flatten your back by tilting your pelvis. Now, as you exhale and crunch your elbows towards your thighs, I want you to squeeze that block for all you're worth. Breathe all your air out. Press your navel down. Squeeze your block. Inhale and release. Take your block and flip it to the skinniest level between your knees. Put your feet back on the ground. So right now, your body is completely straight, aligned on your mat. You have the block between your knees. What we're going to do is make sure that our spine stays straight as we come to the gentlest of twists. So here's what I'd like you to do. Keep the block between your knees. Lift your bum just a little bit. Push it over to the left of your mat and put it back down. So right now you should feel like all skewed. It's perfect, trust me. Pick your feet up off the mat and drop them to the right. Left arm opens out to the left, and if it's okay with your body, your head turns to the left. So if you could see yourself from above right now, your spine is perfectly aligned with the long sides of the mat. A lot of times when we do a twist, we have this tendency to do a little bit of a jackknife move, which is normal and fine because of the weight of our pelvis. But today we're really emphasizing lengthening the spine, so we want to keep it straight. So what you should feel right now is a very straight, lengthened spine that's simply rotating to the left. One more breath on this side. So we don't just transition to the other side because we were all off center before we started. So here's what I'd like you to do. Breathe in as you bring your knees up. Breathe out as you put your feet back on the ground. You should still feel crooked, right? Your bum is off to the left. So now we're going to switch that. I want you to inhale, lift your back side up, and now you're swinging it way over to the right side of the mat. So you're still crooked, but you're crooked in the opposite direction. Pick your feet up off the mat, drop them over to the left as your right arm opens out to the right and your head turns to the right. Yet again, a very straight, aligned spine that's simply rotating. Two more breaths on this side. On your next inhale, you can go ahead and bring your legs back up. As you exhale, put your feet on the floor. Lift your bum up and bring it back to center. Remove your block. Hug your knees in. Rock side to side. Keep your right knee hugged into your chest. Extend your left leg all the way out onto the ground. Just hold this for a moment. Bring your left knee up. Extend your right leg out onto the ground. Just hold this for a moment. And then hug both knees in one last time. And then we're going to put the feet flat on the mat. Allow the knees to drop open, soles of the feet together. Take a deep breath in, press your low back into the mat, and just hold this. So the knees are still wide. You're basically just tilting your pelvis back, allowing those low back muscles one last opportunity to release any remaining tension. They're just letting go. On your next exhale, you let go and let the natural arch come back into your spine. And then one last time, inhale, press your low back into the mat, flatten it out, breathe. Exhale and release. Extend your legs. Wiggle them if you need to, separate them however much you need to. As you find what feels like your best Shavasana position, I'm going to ask you to ever so slightly lift your shoulder blades and lengthen them away from the hips, and then lift your head and lengthen that away from the shoulders. Now you have maximum spinal length. You can close your eyes, soften your jaw, relax your fingers and toes. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale through the mouth. And just let everything go. So in keeping with our spine lengthening practice, I'm just going to have you walk your breath up and down your spine. If you are a visually oriented person, this can be kind of a cool exercise. What I'd like you to imagine is that you are inhaling through the top of your head, all the way down to your tailbone. You might envision this as being a nice, clear white light, and it creates space and cleanses everything in your spinal canal. When you exhale from your tailbone back up the spine, but out the nose, like a normal exhale. And you imagine that your breath is taking out any tightness, tension, achiness, debris, anything at all, scar tissue, anything that needs to be relieved from your spine. When I do this, I imagine the clear light coming in from the crown of my head going down to my tailbone. And when I exhale, I'm usually exhaling out like gray or a darker light. And I like to do this until my breath, quote unquote, runs clear. So maybe that works for you, maybe not. But for the next couple of minutes, please just try and stick with that breath. Inhaling from the top of the head all the way down the length of the spine to the tailbone, and exhaling from your tailbone back up the spine and out the nose, creating length and space. Allow your breath to return to what you know it to normally be, which is simply inhaling and exhaling through the nose, in and out of the lungs. And you've had all of this time to focus on that central channel, your spine. But I'd like you to notice now how the rest of your body feels. So our spine houses our spinal cord, which is our central nervous system. But from that branches our peripheral nervous system. That's all the nerves that move out into your arms and legs and hands and feet, fingers and toes, all of that, the periphery. They're all connected. And so when the spine is opened and has more space, we often feel relief in our periphery. Just notice if that's true for you. Notice if you feel anything different at all. And then you can start to move your periphery. So your fingers and toes can move a little. You're welcome to flutter the eyelids or move your head. And then just take an extra deep breath in. Spread your fingers and toes. Exhale through your mouth. Relax your fingers and toes. Breathe in even deeper and stretch, stretch, stretch. And exhale and relax. Bend your knees. You can bring them into your chest if that feels good, or just keep the feet on the floor. And then as you're ready, go ahead and roll to your right side. And if you can, please stay there for an extra breath. Today, we really want that left nostril, left sinus to open. And then from here, just press yourself up into sitting. So our pranayama today, our breath work, is going to be directed at balancing out energies. You know, I always do this, right? Well, you may or may not know that tomorrow evening, Friday evening, right after midnight, so I guess technically Saturday morning, but really Friday evening, it's a new moon, but it's also a full solar eclipse, which means it's like a new moon on steroids. So there's like so much of an overabundance of solar energy and a complete absence of lunar energy. So we really want strong lunar energy to come in. You'll notice your practice today was a softer, gentler practice, a little more yin oriented. That's also balancing this out. So I'm going to give you guys the advanced version of a lunar breath today because I know that you can do it. We're just going to be breathing in and out through the left nostril. And we're going to do it as a 1-to-2 ratio breath. But the part that's advanced is I'm not going to have you use your hands. And I know this is puzzling initially, but it's phenomenal when you do it because you can do it simply by your focus and intention. So if it feels appropriate, the tip of the ring finger of each hand touches the tip of the thumb, and you let your hands be palms up. This is welcoming and allowing in more lunar intuitive energy. So that's with your palms facing up. And again, you are not using your hands. You're going to do this just by mind power alone, inhaling and exhaling through your left nostril only, letting your exhales be twice as long as your inhales. Take an inhale through both nostrils, exhale through both, and then off you go. As you finish the breath you're on, just let your breath return to normal through both nostrils. But notice if it feels like your left nostril is more open. And then bring your palms together in front of your heart. So taking a moment in gratitude. Always, there are so many things to be grateful for. One thing that we can be grateful for is our spine. For each vertebra that helps protect our spinal cord, for those beautiful, plump, juicy discs between them that cushion them, for all of the nerve impulses that run up and down our spine that send signals to the rest of our body and receive signals from the rest of our body. Gratitude for these brains that allow us to know when we need to practice, when we need to lengthen our spines, when we need to breathe a particular way. Take one more huge inhale through your nose. Big, soft, happy sigh. Palms to the forehead, reminding us to be present, to just be in the moment. Palms to the lips, reminding us to speak our truth. And palms to the heart, reminding us to keep our hearts open, to always come from a place of kindness and compassion and love. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. Namaste.